Back to another Medical Monday with Nicrae. And today we're going to be talking about what is the difference between a yeast infection and a bacterial infection, because there is a difference and they are big indicators. I guess you said there's indicators that signify the difference because they're caused by different things, and so the treatment options are going to be different. I know we talked about briefly how you can get a yeast infection or how you can get a bacterial infection, but we didn't talk about what the differences are. So that's what this video will be about today. You already have yeast in your vagina, but what happens when you have a yeast infection is just that there's an overflow of yeast. And so what it typically looks like, or what you might be able to, what you could expect if you get a yeast infection, is there will be a thick cottage cheese, almost like creamy white. It could be a little yellowy, but mostly it's white. And it's in your vagina, and sometimes you'll have discharge on your underwear if it's just a lot of overgrowth, or it might not even be in your underwear, but you might just have a lot of itching, and the itching can be either inside, outside, or both. And so the treatment options for that are usually an antifungal, because it is a fungus, it's not a bacteria, so you do need to treat it with an antifungal medication. And the reasons why you typically would get a yeast infection, other than you not properly following vaginal health, would be if you have an increased diet of carbohydrates or sugars, or processed foods. You would also see this if you have an imbalance of the pH. So anytime you throw off the pH, whether you're putting perfume down there, whether you're doing anything to throw off the natural biome and the natural microflora that we've talked about before, anything like that will throw off the pH. So if there's an imbalance, if you're not changing your underwear, when you're working out, some people, if you're working out and you're going to work, for example, right afterwards, or if you're working out and you just don't feel like taking a shower or changing afterwards, that's where the yeast is thriving, because they love moisture, and your vagina is a place of moisture and heat. So it's if off of the perfect breeding environment for a good old yeast infection. I love to call it yeast. So if you're not changing your underwear after you're done working out, or after you're done going swimming, or if you're going to the beach and sand can get in your vagina, there's so many different elements that can be present that can throw off the pH of your vagina if you don't be careful after being in hot climates or different interactive activities, I guess you could say. That goes along with too, if you don't practice proper hygiene after sexual intercourse, that's also a possibility for you to get a yeast infection or even a bacterial infection. Also, what we've also talked about in the vaginal hips, another way that you can get a yeast infection is if you are not wearing underwear that are conducive for to not breed that bacteria and breed that yeast, should I say. So you should always wear cotton underwear. I know we've talked about that before, but if you don't want to wear cotton underwear and you're just I need to wear my silks, I need to wear my satins, I need to wear my lees, you can do that, but do that for a quick hot second and then change out of them. But throughout most of your day, either go commando, just don't wear underwear, or wear cotton. Either way. So what is a bacterial infection? So a bacterial infection is it's a little different in the fact that the symptoms that present itself, or what it's characterized by, is a little different, as well as the treatment option is different. So for bacterial infection, it's usually very thin, very watery, and the big one for this one is stinks. So yeast infection, usually it doesn't really stink as much. It's not really a pungent smell. You usually don't really have any odor, to be honest. But the bacterial infection, it will be a strong fishy smell, or it would just be a strong pungent, just not right. Just something just not right, down there. Let's get her together. So yeah, usually thinner, watery, and it's imbalance of the pH of just overgrown or the wrong bacteria. So it's the yeast is an overgrown of candida, which is already, like I said, already in your vagina, and the bacterial infection is overgrown of the wrong bacteria that's in your vagina. So you already have that natural microbiome in your vagina that's perfectly balanced, And so if you're doing too much, or like, for example, if you're having sex and you're not using proper precautions in order to be safe and to be cleanly, you make yourself susceptible to outside intruders and invaders into your vagina, and so that's when you could possibly get a bacterial infection, along with other causes of bacterial infection. I'm not going to say like all of them because there's too many to say. The vagina is a very sensitive area, so you have to be careful with things that go in and things that come, not just things that go in or around. So that one is, the treatment options are usually antibacterial, so like a medication, insertion, things like that. And if you want more like tips on vaginal health, we do have another video that's posted on healthy vaginal tips, so go ahead and watch that one, and that'll give you all the tips to make sure your vagina is nice and fresh, that she's fresh, so that you can avoid getting the wonderful yeast and the wonderful bacterial infection. So we will catch you back for another video next Medical Monday. Thank you for joining us.